Welcome, everyone. This is Jim Sporer with ISSIP, the International Society of Service Innovation Professionals. And it's a great pleasure to welcome you to the next one of our series on digital transformations of industry sectors. Vital Prabhu, who is my co-host, is traveling in India, so he may or may not be able to join us, but I will carry on. And we've got 4 great panelists for you today and some great participants from the ISSIP community as well. First thing I'd like to remind everybody, these meetings are recorded, so if you have any problems with that, please drop off. We do post it to the ISSIP YouTube for our roughly 2,000 participants worldwide to view later. And also, please make sure you are on mute if you're not talking, and put comments and questions in the chat. Once the panelists have presented, we'll open it up for Q&A and discussions. And as you can see by this first screen here, we started in May 1st with healthcare, then did finance in June, education in August. October, we had retail and hospitality. Today, we're going to be talking about supply chain and logistics. And coming up in December, we have energy and IT to round out this 2024 series with Penn State University. So again, today we will be talking about supply chain and logistics. My co-host Vital, again, is traveling. He was the originator of this series because at Penn State University, which I believe was the first industrial engineering university in the US, they started a focus on service systems engineering. And that, of course, is the largest part of the economy, and Vital is the leader of service systems engineering at Penn State University in their engineering department. This slide shows our 4 panelists who will be introducing themselves in more depth, but I'll just mention that Jeremy is the CEO of Prism Logistics, and there's also an interview out there with him. Utpal is a general manager of Edge Cloud and AI at IBM, my old employer before I retired, and there's also an interview with Utpal out there. Carlos Marino is going to be our 3rd panelist, and Carlos, you and I are meeting for the first time here today, but I know Vital knows you, and looking at your LinkedIn profile, I saw lots of fascinating stuff, so I think we'll have a lot of questions for you today as well. Anith Torres-Ruiz is our 4th panelist. She's a senior data scientist at an AI startup company in Texas. So moving right along, certainly we're seeing a lot in the news about supply chain and logistics. I think supply chain and logistics probably got on the general public's radar during the COVID crisis, and everybody was talking about it and understanding it better and worrying about it. But it really is in the news, and a lot of great advances have happened in supply chain and logistics over the years. Here in the US, I don't think anybody is unfamiliar with the Amazon truck zooming through their neighborhood, making deliveries. But it really is an important topic for our ISSIP, our service innovation community, to understand more deeply. So we're really lucky today to have the panelists who have expertise in this area to share some of their insights with us today. I just want to say, though, one of the things that we think about in this series is the digital transformation of industries. And for me, at least, I see 3 things happening. The cost of computation keeps going down and down, thanks to Moore's law. Also, we're seeing more and more technology amplification. Early stage service robots, and I think we're going to hear a little bit about robotic vehicles in warehouses today. I would be surprised if we didn't. But there's also this concept of AI digital twins for scaling people and organizations that I'll mention just briefly. And always on the top of my mind these days is not just the benefits we get from technology, but also thinking about maybe some of the potential harms. That's what we do in service innovation community. We think about the technological capabilities, the business model benefits, but we also think about if there's any societal harms. And I think we are all concerned about energy and the climate, and certainly if we can use technology to lower energy costs of moving things around this planet, that's a good thing. So when I talk about the cost of computation dropping, it really is going to be, a lot of it's being driven by NVIDIA today. And I just really encourage people, if they haven't seen this, you might want to take a screenshot or a picture of this slide, but go out and look at this talk that Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, gave at Stanford a little while ago. It's really quite incredible about the cost of computation dropping. Again, lots in the news about robotics is another digital transformation of industries that we see coming. And if you haven't seen it, again, take a picture of the screen and check out Reid Hoffman interviewing himself with his AI digital twin. It's really provocative and profound. This is my version of Moore's Law. You can see that the cost of computation goes down by a factor of 1,000 every 20 years. By 2060, it's estimated that an exascale, which is a billion instructions per second, basically the estimated computing power of a human brain, will be $1,000. And think about the number of billionaires on the planet, because by 2080, a Ronoscale, which is the computing power of 1 billion people, will be $1 billion. And so we really are entering a world where if computation is required for it, that cost of computation is really dropping rapidly. So without further ado, I want to get into our panelists. Mark, I do see your hand up, but we're going to go through our panelists before we
I just had one brief thing that I wanted to put into people's heads, if I may.
Sure.
And I don't know whether it came from this group or who it came from, but somebody recently said that SaaS, which started out as software as a service, is turning into service as a software.
Huh, interesting. We'll
And
have to check that out. That's very relevant for our community. Thanks, Mark. Now, without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Jeremy, who's president at Prism Logistics. And each of our panelists will present for 5 minutes. Jeremy, please introduce yourself, and I'm happy to change the slides when you're ready.
Sure. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. And hello, everyone. Appreciate the time to sit here and go through a few things. My name is Jeremy Van Pufflin. I am the president of Prism Logistics. We are a Northern California-based 3PL focused primarily on food, beverage, CPG, and the movement of those goods throughout the states and the Pacific Rim. So focus hard on tracking people's inventories, make sure it gets to where it needs to be in a timely fashion. Company started in '93. I joined them in '96. We started off as a single, small, 40,000 square foot location. Today, we've got 7 locations in Northern California that spans about 2.5 million square feet. We do a fair amount of trucking, transportation, distribution, both asset and brokerage based. And we decided in 2014, when I bought my father's partner out, that we were going to focus heavily on our growth plan and look at what that was. So we put a plan together that was essentially doubling every 5 years. And how are we going to do that, both from the cost of employment moving forward, but also maintaining those costs and implementing different automation so that we could keep up for the long term. Doubling the growth every 5 years, if we did that, would also kind of lead us to doubling the number of people we had. And here in Northern California, it's not always that easy to grow that fast with that number of people as an addition. So we started implementing things within our WMS that allowed us for scanning opportunities, allowed us to go through and put things in real time for our clients, offer visibility, But it also made it a very quick training tool. So instead of having someone come in and have to learn a paper system or go through weeks and weeks of training, we could get them in and have them up to speed within 2 or 3 days. So our training time went down significantly, and just got people to be productive on a very quick scale. Usually within 2 weeks, they were as good as anyone who'd been there for a year, at least from a system standpoint. You know, they have the culture and some other things they would have to learn, but there was no technology holdback for them to be able to function and do their jobs properly. Some of the more exciting things we actually have been working on, you see Conduit there in one of those slides. That is really more about how do we also give time back to the drivers and the people that we work with on a daily basis. That scan to check-in screen on the bottom left corner there. What that does is it allows drivers, as they're walking into our facility or driving into our facility, to scan that QR code, and then it creates a conversation with our ship and receiving department at that point in time. So they don't have to get out of their truck. They don't have to go sit in the ship and receiving line. They don't have to check into the office. They can really do everything from their phone at that point in time. Those two slides together, you'll see the conversation kind of on the right there. It tells them, you know, you're assigned to this door, please go in and back in. Allows them to upload all their bill of lading information and pass data back and forth through that system. Really just takes away the time of everyone moving back and forth, standing in lines, makes everything a little quicker, and gives them the chance to move right into a door versus sitting there waiting in the trucking yard. That's one thing that also gives time back to our customer service team. They're not having to schedule appointments and go through and take those phone calls, again, reply to all the emails. And it's those little things. It's those 5-minute increments, but those 5 minutes, you know, 500 times over the course of a week really start to add up. So a lot of the time when we're looking at integration and AI and different things that might help out from an automation standpoint, how do we solve the small things first, and then we start working towards the big things? So Conduit's definitely helped us focus in on some of those small things and give that continual time back. And then we've got some things there on the right where you'll see some AGVs, automated guidance vehicles. So those are humanless forklifts, and we just started and launched that pilot program in September. It went live, so we are about 2 months in now to those vehicles running, and they're doing their job. It's going well. We did not look at it necessarily from the standpoint of labor replacement and getting rid of people we have, but how do we continue that growth? How do we stay focused on our growth proposition of doubling again in 5 years without having to add a bunch of bodies? So if we can use automation and our people that we've already got, it allows us to increase their skill set, and maybe instead of hiring 50 people for a new location, I can hire 10 and plant it with people who have been well trained in our facilities that we've had for quite some time, and go into that facility and work with automation and still achieve the same goals. So far, so good. You can see them down there. I mean, there's some little hangups. I think anytime you do a project of this nature, you've got a little bit of a learning curve. I would assume that we'll get through our learning curve hopefully by the end of January and have it running really well. But if we can get through it within about a quarter and it's running completely on its own after then, I'd feel pretty good about that. So as of this point, a lot of people like to talk about the ROI. I'm feeling pretty good about the direction it's headed. We are moving several hundred pallets a day, where it was dead time before with the operators moving up to the dock and taking stuff back to locations. All that travel time has been eliminated. So for us, we can see that as about a 46 to 48% reduction in travel time for our warehouse operators, and that's all dead time. So those are a couple things we've been working on. Again, I think at the end of the day, when we go through it, we focus hard on our people as well. We have a great team, Prism Team Services. That team part is extremely important. The tenure of our folks, they've been around for a long time. We've got people who've been with us 25 plus years, and a large portion of them have been there 10, 15 plus. It really, at the end of the day, is the integration of automation is about how do we make their jobs easier? How do we maximize their efforts? How do we keep them moving forward? We're not looking to be just an automated warehouse with no employees, but we want our employees to be able to do well, help us grow, help them grow, and having that combination of automation and maximizing their skill sets at the same time, I think is a good formula for that growth. So that's a little bit about where we're at, and it's a quick overview. I'm sure there's a lot more, but happy to answer any questions. And Jim, thanks.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Jeremy. And I do encourage Michelle put the link into your interview, because one of the things that's great about we were talking when we did the interview that even people with high school educations, people that haven't been to college, I mean, there's a lot of AI jobs and data science jobs if you have your college degree, but logistics and supply chain has some great opportunities for people with a high school diploma. And I think that's an important thing to emphasize as well when we talk about the people. So thank you so much, Jeremy. I'll remind everybody to put comments and questions in the chat, and let's move on to Utpal. Utpal, can you introduce yourself and give us your perspective?
Absolutely. Jim, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Jeremy, congratulations. Just an excellent, excellent story. Love it. Has all the grippings of a successful use case customer. So congratulations. I'll be excited to see what the final results are in January in terms of the success of the project, because there's no greater joy than seeing the successful delivery of a project. So team, my name is Utpal, part of IBM, work in IBM Cloud, been with the company for a long time, and am focused on doing whatever it takes to help our customers be successful globally. Specifically, I consciously did not bring any slides for this discussion, and I just wanted to share a few nuggets based on my personal experience, based on having worked with customers and using technology to help them be successful in a supply chain, logistics, manufacturing, industrial environment. And we work with a lot of customers. I'm personally myself engaged with multiple customers at different stages of their journey and life cycle. And I will share a few things. First, as Jeremy mentioned, AI and automation is becoming absolutely critical and essential for success. And it's not to replace workforce. It's to mostly, when companies are looking at it, it's to augment the workforce so that they can do their job better, faster, and more effectively, and move the workforce to doing the more high-end jobs while the regular, repeatable things can be handled by technology. The second thing that we observe a lot is dabbling with use cases, dabbling with Gen AI use cases, and many companies are in different stages of their life cycle. But if you are not clear upfront on what your ROI is or what you're looking for in terms of your success criteria, we see that those use cases pretty much end up as being POCs or pilots, and they don't move on to the next stage. Data is absolutely critical, and depending on where your data resides, the quality of the data, the level of insights you have with those data are critical to the success of a use case. And by the way, that's a generic statement and is very valid for supply chain, logistics, and all the industries that we look at. What we are seeing is companies have data in multiple places. Traditionally on-prem, the newer ones on the cloud, and it's not just one cloud, it's a multi-cloud environment. And lately, more and more on the edge. And as companies build more solutions on the edge, on the shop floor, we are seeing a greater traction of data getting on the edge. And I think we have just seen the surface or seen the tip of the iceberg, if you will, but more and more data is coming on the edge. And so the success of a use case is its ability to pass through all of those layers, if you will, on where the data resides and make it seamless so that the use cases are successful. And we see that as time progresses, more use cases, more Gen AI use cases are going to be run on the edge and take data from there. It will not have to traverse back to on-prem or on the cloud. Obviously, with more data, more use cases, more spread of these things at different places, it also creates a huge risk. And so hacking, cybersecurity, and sustainability are the three key areas that become very, very important in terms of making sure that you have a plan in place and you have put safeguards on this. Obviously, with the huge growth of AI, it also can be used for negative purposes, if you will, and therefore building the frameworks around governance and making sure that AI is being used responsibly becomes absolutely critical, and even more in a supply chain and logistics environment where you have huge IoT data, small devices, millions of those at different places. It's very easy. It's even more important to make sure that you have proper security and protocols in place. With that, back to you, Jim.
Great, thanks, Paul. And I will encourage people to go out and listen to your interview. And I really liked in that interview what you said about the skills for the future, the hard skills, the soft skills, and the industry-specific skills. And I hope these ISSIP series where we look at different industries through the eyes of experts like yourself will really help some of the next generation that's listening in to these ISSIP recordings. So thank you, Paul. Next, Carlos. It's a pleasure to meet you today, and it would be wonderful if you could introduce yourself to the ISSIP community and give us your perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Spohr, and thanks to Dr. Prabhu for making the connection. Thank you for the invitation to be part of this panel with ISSIP, and it's a pleasure to meet everyone today. I'm Carlos Moreno. I've been 27 plus years working in supply chain. From my early careers at Kimberly-Clark, Amazon, then Hostess, and now in a private equity called 8th Avenue. So I've gone through all the areas from anything you plan, buy, make, move, or sell. And for today, I'd like to share my view on digital transformation to improve supply chain, and I would say resilience, to improve customer collaboration, and to improve organizational effectiveness. The way I see it, number one, supply chain disruptions will happen and will continue to happen. We're not gonna get away with that. Number two, customers, even when they seem happy with your service, guess what? They're looking for something better. And three, it is no longer enough to look internally within your company to endure cost/margin pressures, and you need to involve out customers and suppliers equally to collaborate on defect elimination. As in Kimberly-Clark, we used to call it from the source to the shelf. From my experience, digital transformation of supply chains enables through the technical systems like RF, AI, cloud computing, ML, and through management infrastructure like real-time alerts, reporting, early mechanisms, and dashboards with heat maps to get you back on your feet and on track after a disruption, and hopefully quicker than the one before so that you can learn what happened. With the power of data science and analytics, decisions can be made faster to reconcile the supply and demand changes, right? And the second thing is that you can find new sources of alternative sourcings, the plus ones that we call it, and adjust within minutes on real-time options with the respective risks being assessed in a very, very fast manner. Where I think companies and professionals need to do more when you do the digital transformation is in the mindsets and behaviors, the changes associated with the teams that undergo such digital transformations. Human change is hard, and it's often the factor which will limit the impact and results of such digital transformation. There will be an overload of data, and how to turn that into valuable insights is key. It takes time to learn and to get good at it. And guess what? It won't be comfortable. So you have to be comfortable in definitely very ambiguous situations. During my time at Amazon customer experience, my team and I was responsible for if something went wrong on the last mile for your delivery or on the reverse logistics in Canada, that was my team who handled your concern. And the goal was, and I believe it continues to be that, but I'm not there anymore to validate it, but it was to make our jobs irrelevant. How? Well, basically bring as much ML, AI, and focus on defect elimination mechanisms. Yes, I had a digital twin or a triplet that actually learned what reports I reviewed at what time of the day and what data I would need and what kind of questions I would ask and to who I would ask those questions. And by tagging and doing a lot of collaborative work with my twin, you know, we got into a routine that that all the customer service KPI misses for the previous day, week, month, or quarter, the bot will learn how to pick them up, ask the right questions, and get the right answers. And so that was a huge change. And also, the other bot would learn how to mine internal to CS, to customer service, or databases and anecdotes, and pick customer anecdotes from social media as well. So it would marry whatever internally our metrics were saying with what customers were actually saying outside. And then guess what? If those didn't match, Amazon will choose to believe what the customer is saying and not the KPIs. So in a way, the bot learned, you know, how to reconcile the internal philosophy at Amazon about customer centricity. Now imagine the change for my team, right? Because we had daily stand-up meetings where we would check the KPIs and we would make sure we had the right strategies and tactical measures to ensure the service levels. But now all of that got done very quickly and in little to no time. Mining for customer anecdotes from social media would take months, and then it got done in seconds, right? So we were also not rewarded anymore for firefighting and doing all these heroic type of functions to make sure the customers got what they needed. But it got more to a change where we had to learn to see data in a way that we would turn it into important insights. So looking around corners for where that next defect could potentially be hiding that our customers weren't aware yet, and discerning what was important so that we could preempt it, picking, you know, the right outliers so that could be our next black swan, right? Differentiating it from just the average of what we were seeing so that we could continue to provide the best customer service and share these best practices that we learned from Canada to the rest of the Amazon world. And then also implement anything that was learned in other parts of other marketplaces with ML so that we could ensure best practices were implemented across the customer experience. So my caution would be not to make yourself too irrelevant. I think Jeremy well said it initially, people, they're the most important asset. And on your quest to make yourself irrelevant and embrace the power of a digital transformation, don't forget that you will need to build relationships to drive these results, and how you build trust within your teams and colleagues is equally important or more. Keep learning about disruptive changes like the bot did in my case, so that you can continue mentoring others, removing obstacles and making a difference for people's lives. And lastly, just make sure that digital transformation does not become siloed just to supply chain, and that through change management, it can be sustained across time. So thank you, and I'll turn it back to Dr. Spohr.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Marino. And I really, you know, you put a big smile on my face when I saw your slides. The making yourself irrelevant is the opportunity, but not making yourself too irrelevant is the challenge. And I think one of the questions I'd like to ask all of you at the end would be, what incentives can you put in place for people to keep them engaged and growing? And I know, for example, some organizations give more equity, so you become more of an owner over time as you progress in the corporation or the business. So it's really of interest to me to hear your perspectives on that. But before we get to that, I'd love to introduce our fourth panelist, Anaith. Anaith, thank you so much for making time. I know you were at Penn State getting your degrees and doing research, and hopefully now you're out in the world, you're at a startup applying a lot of things, and as a senior data scientist, we'd really love to have you introduce yourself to the ISSIP community and share with us your expertise and insights. So over to you, Anaith.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure for me being here today and learning from all of you as well. And so you said that well. I'm currently a senior data scientist. My company's name is Fractal AI. I've been in the technology consulting sector already for about 10 years. Around 3 of those years, I did private consulting. And I have held multiple companies across different sectors, including oil and gas, retail, manufacturing, healthcare, and others, as well as with companies of different sizes, including startups and large companies. And most of the applications I've helped them develop are related to, well, different levels of maturity, but most of them with a goal of enhancing their logistics and supply chain systems. As you said, I was also part of Penn State for some time for my PhD and master's studies. And some of the areas of interest that I have are the application of, well, advanced analytics, decision sciences, the operations research, and system thinking to solve problems related to risk management, sustainability, and supply chain and logistics. And well, I did want to share with you some my thoughts about 2 key trends that we are observing, or that we have been observing within the supply chain over the past few years, and we probably will continue dealing with them in the coming decade or so. The first one is related to risk analytics. And first here, I like to mention that in reality, supply chains face gray rhinos, which is highly probable, predictable, and impactful crises that are usually visible but underestimated. So unlike black swans, which are challenges that are typically not really visible, we are talking here about challenges that we are, in some way, we can see, but we don't often give them the value that we should give to them. And this implies that companies need to be prepared for their next crisis in a proactive way. And some of the things that are important for companies in terms of risk preparation include the identification of risk. So, for example, the implementation of risk sensing and risk monitoring systems. Also, resilience is important to be built up in the supply chain, and for this supplier, a portfolio of suppliers that is simplified is also very important. And well, in order to de-risk the supply chain, technology adoption is key as well. I wanted to share with you some examples of the types of technologies that we've been seeing frequently, every time more frequently requested by our clients in the past few years. And some of them were already mentioned by the previous panelists. But well, I also wanted to share these examples of how we've been implementing them as well. So one of those technologies is digital twins for the planning of global supply chains. We've been seeing companies, for example, using digital twins to generate alerts about the disruptions happening upstream of the supply chain, or for example, creating buffers between supply chain segments so that they can understand what the size of buffers they need in order, for example, to still meet just-in-time objectives. Another technology that, well, as you all probably know, is very has brought a lot of enthusiasm in the latest years is generative AI. We have been seeing that used in contract negotiations. So several of our clients have reached out to us for solutions of this type. And we will have AI technologies being used to draft and evaluate contracts faster. For example, by implementing automated payment schedules and discounts. And one very successful example of this is what Walmart did with their suppliers, where by implementing this type of technology, they were able to close around 68% of deals versus an initial target that they had of 20% of deals. So that was a huge improvement over their expectations. And they were also able to achieve around 3% of savings. And another example of the use of digital technologies is optimization and machine learning being used for supplier selection and monitoring. And here we have helped companies identify, for example, their backup suppliers and measure risk and manage it and monitoring it. In one specific example, we were able to estimate, for example, a 13% decrease in supplier risk after the implementation of these types of technologies. So all in all, adopting these types of strategies, it's key to bring resilience to supply chains and ensure continuity in the face of gray rhinos, as the ones I mentioned at the beginning. So in addition to this, I also wanted to share with you my thoughts about the talent gap in the supply chain. Right now, pretty much everyone in the supply chain is doing some effort to reskill or redeploy their skill force in support of their digitization efforts. However, what we are also seeing is that probably between 30% and 40% of executives feel that their supply chain teams have the skills needed to meet the current challenges. And one of the key issues is the hiring of candidates now requires not just expertise in the fundamentals of supply chains, like, for example, in network design or production planning, etc. But we are seeing that the profile now requires, for example, more skills in analytics, digitization, and artificial intelligence, and also ideally entrepreneurial and strategic skills. And it seems like based on this study of McKinsey, only around 5% of the workforce are considered well-rounded end-to-end thinker or end-to-end talent within the supply chain. So that seems to be an important gap. And the question is, how can companies can help bridge that talent gap? And some of the suggestions that we have is, being more creative in the sourcing of talent. So what we see is that many companies, and I think this was mentioned before, they have usually talent internally that has been with them for many years, sometimes decades. And this talent is not ready to face the challenges of a more digitalized world. So one potential a way to leverage the skills that are needed is by upskilling this internal team that they already have, who already know the and understand the challenges of supply chains, but that are not familiar with the skills needed to develop analytical solutions. And I think that this is one of the potentially faster ways to bridge that gap. But also another one is establishing connections with external parties, like universities, for example. And there are we have heard about companies who have been very proactive in bringing people from academia to their companies to teach more advanced skills or to standardize the skills across the different types of professionals that they have internally. And in addition to that, they have combined this with very practical oriented training, where, for example, they take their workers to warehouses and they promote mutual teaching, or they promote master classes within their organization in order to enhance as much as they can the experience of their workers in areas that will make that will help them acquire not only the skills needed for supply chains, but also in the analytical domain. And well, this is also part of what a robust and unconventional internal training program will be about. And well, that's my intervention for now.
Great.
Yes, you can contact me here. I have added my my email, LinkedIn profile, blog, and also some references for you about I think some good readings related to what I shared with you.
Thank you so much, Anita, for that sharing those trends with us, and look forward to the Q&A now. So now we're going to enter the question and answer portion. I saw Kevin had a question for Jeremy. So Jeremy, do you want to go first with the answer to Kevin's question?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So it sounded like, Kevin, the question was really about how we're going to unload high cube stuff, maybe looking at containers, imports, things of that nature. We did not design our initial process to go after the unloading of essentially shotgun loaded containers, right? We were looking at what is the most what I would consider wasted time, unproductive time. And really for us, that was the travel time from going to a back location all the way to the dock, back to another location. So it was wasteful time, whereas unloading containers, you're still hitting that as a process of functionality, in my opinion. That is good use of time for people to do that. I think having some automation to get there. There are some things coming down the road. There is a group that we're looking at for future implementation that does the unloading of trucks. I don't know that it's going to be from the container standpoint. We have looked at some of the arms that have essentially suction cups on them that help and do assist unloading. Those containers need to be relatively uniform. So we didn't target that as our first run. It was more the walk before we run, and biggest, again, waste of time for us was travel time. So we'll keep working on it. If I find a good solution for that, I'm definitely happy to come back to everyone, but not something we have addressed yet.
I would just say that in looking at, the automation of trucking and what we're seeing in automation in warehouses, this is the last mile problem, right? Is getting those two systems to coordinate with each other. And there's a good economic opportunity for somebody who can solve it. So I'll just stop there.
I would agree with you.
Great, great. Well, I'd like to ask all of you a question about this, motivating talent, engaging talent issue, because when we started ISSIP in 2012, one of our students from the University of Rome, Italy, Alessio Gaisa, he was a student then. He was just getting his OR degree from University of Rome. And I watched his career as he started leading warehouses for Amazon in Italy and became the leader for the whole country for optimizing their warehouses. So I know there are good career pathways in supply chain and logistics, certainly that Amazon created for Alessio. But one approach, of course, is, and Nath, I thought you did a great job on the upskilling. Some employees are just like, give me more skills, give me more skills, give me more skills. And if you can provide that challenge, they're engaged. Others, it's give me ownership, equity. But maybe others, it's like, I'm going to leave your company because there's no challenges left for me here, and how you deal with that. But let's go through each of the panelists, and I'm just curious how you managed the people part of that. Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, and don't know if this is the right way to say it, but everybody has a ceiling, right? There's a point where everyone gets to where we max out their talent. And so our goal is to find that ceiling for all of our employees. How do we upscale them and keep them moving forward? But not everyone is ready to be a president or a vice president. So we want to make sure that we're maximizing them to the level that we can, and that we're getting them to the place where they're comfortable. We have overshot that in our past as well. We've probably undershot it, but it's also not good when you go over the limit and push people beyond their ceiling. It also doesn't end up going so well. So for us, it's creating that family atmosphere. Talked a little bit about it, giving them the right tools, helping them out. I mean, there's an atmosphere where they know we want them to grow as far as they can grow, and they've got our support. Obviously, you got to treat people well financially. From a culture standpoint, so all those things are important. But we'll keep on giving them the tools they can. We're not going to be 100% successful. If anyone says they're going to be 100% successful when working with other people and employing people, let me know that model, because I'd love to see it.
Exactly. So, Paul, what are your thoughts? And I know a lot of consulting businesses have an up or out model where you have to keep moving up, bringing in more bucks, getting more skills, or you move out. And I know sometimes when people move out, they go to one of their customers instead of there. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you have like 3 buckets you put it in, or what are your thoughts on keeping?
Yeah, obviously we all look at these problems from a slightly different lens, but also in kind of different skill sets or people. So obviously in the work that we do from an IT and technology standpoint, working with our customers, typically successful practitioners have 3 skills, if you will, that put it in 3 separate buckets. One is that, we use technology to help our customers. So having a technical knowledge, understanding of some form of technology is table stakes. And there is an inherent expectation that you will upskill as technology changes, and even more rapidly in the current times. But there are 2 other skills that we see very, very critical. The second bucket, if you will, are soft skills. We are looking for team members. We're looking for team players. We're looking for folks who have great communication skills. We are looking for listeners. As the saying goes, if you are a one-person team, you can go this much, but if it's a team effort, you go much further. So we appreciate those soft skills, which are absolutely critical. And I can say that the schools and universities are teaching less and less of that these days. So, and with the online virtual environment of education also popping up, some of those skills sadly are lacking.
Yeah. Well, let's get our other panelists.
And then And then the third one that I would say is even more important as practitioners go up the food chain is industry knowledge. You can either have an industry knowledge or a service line knowledge, like some form of, you can be an expert in a particular industry. You should be able to have that conversation. Let's say Jeremy is a customer. You should be able to talk the language of Jeremy. You should be able to understand his business. You should be able to use the words that he's looking at from his business metric standpoint. It could either be an industry knowledge or it could be a service line knowledge, like it could be financial knowledge, could be supply chain, etc. So those are the skills that I would say 3 buckets, if you will.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Paul. So Dr. Marino, what are your thoughts?
I was going to add also on the generational gap that exists as well. As I've come to learn, you know, when I graduated from university, was find a company and build your career there. Nowadays, it's more about what experience can I get, and it doesn't need to happen all in the same company. It can be across several. So you have a workforce that is not gonna be there for long, right? It's just the way it's just evolving in terms of what experiences can you offer. Now, one thing we did at Kimberly-Clark at the end of my tenure there was reverse mentoring. So people who were high up in the management would learn and from newly graduate recruits and understand what engages them really and what motivates them, because they're not the same things that drove our type of rewards and recognition. So with that, I think it was a plus to you know, we measure engagement and enablement every year at every company I've been with, and then we develop all these plans, be intentional about communicating them. But the reverse mentoring piece does make the you know, different generations become more engaged and actually being heard, and then as a leader you get to learn more and more about yourself too.
Great, thanks. Aneth? Any thoughts?
Yes. Well, actually, well, from the perspective of a data scientist, I do think that something that makes a key difference is not the hard skills, which are relatively easy to get, especially when they are foundational skills like statistics, mathematics, etc. But also the business acumen or the understanding of an industry application in particular. I think that it is harder to find people in the field of analytics that have that experience. And I do think that one of the reasons for that happening is that many people, especially in the field of data science and learning, have been trained in non-traditional ways, where they have acquired all these foundational skills. But I think that is somewhere where universities can contribute if they were to do it in a faster way. I do think the type of robust knowledge that is needed, for example, in the area of supply chain, of logistics or manufacturing, etc., can be acquired through universities, because professors have, especially I'm thinking about a university like Penn State, where there were professors used to have an important interaction with industry, and they were working on research topics that apply to industry. I think universities can be a key to leverage the type of expertise, but definitely I think more proactivity is needed on part of universities, probably, or a better interaction with companies. As I said, I think companies need to be very creative to be able to leverage the type of expertise that they need internally. And I think probably they should be thinking both about the expertise that they have among their current workforce and also the expertise that they can obtain from external sources. And I think one interesting trend that I learned about is that within the supply chain, really the average age of people within the supply chain field is quite high compared to the average age of, for example, data science and other or computer science. So I think that's something that is important to leverage, like the expertise in fundamentals of supply chain with the expertise that people who have the digital knowledge has, the digital knowledge and how to manage that to be able to bring the expertise needed.
Okay, thank you. And so we're wrapping up now. We've just got a few minutes left, but if anybody has a burning comment or question, this is the time now to get it in.
Yeah, I just want to go back. I think the university and the connection with universities is extremely important. And I think that there's a skill set level there that is being met pretty well, just from the general population and public and as people are entering the workforce. I think we really got to also get some focus on like skills and trade school kind of things, because that's really an area where, and I would say across the country, across all sorts of industry, I think that's where we're lacking to get people engaged. And until we make this great leap forward with automation and technology, we still have to keep on feeding the beast that is the general labor pool that is making everything happen on a daily basis for our country, getting things onto shelves, getting things onto trucks, off trucks, whatever it may be. And I think we lack in tying ourselves to the trades and skills to develop that labor and reward it appropriately. So until we make that big jump, I think we also got to put some good effort there.
Jeremy, I'm going to pile on and say I totally agree. And a lot of our ISSIP members are in Germany, actually, and they have a fantastic apprenticeship program there. And I do think there's a lot of there's a shift, a local movement, so to local material flows and supply chains, going local again. Restaurants are starting to, get food locally, things like that, that could create lots of great local opportunities for apprenticeship.
And Jim, that's a great lead into your next topic, because increasingly the energy is also local as opposed to monolithically, generated and distributed in Germany.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we're coming to the end here. I see Vanita is joining one of our board members. Hi, Vanita. Thanks for joining. We're just getting wrapped up. I want to thank our 4 panelists. I want to thank the participants. We're down to just 2 minutes, and Vital asked me if he wasn't able to join, I should definitely make sure that I remind everyone that the final session coming up on December 11th deals with energy and information technology. So thank you, Kevin. You're right on cue there. And I will make sure that we get these recordings posted to the ISSIP YouTube, and these slides will be out on SlideShare. I also put the Zoom chat in there and the transcript that Zoom provides and the meeting transcript, usually summarized by OpenAI ChatGPT if people are amused by looking at what generative AI does. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share and thank everybody again. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Dr. Marino. Thank you, Michelle, from joining from Switzerland, they also have an excellent apprenticeship program there in Switzerland. And Kevin, always great to see you. And I'll put a plug in for your intelligence book. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michelle, for running the chat while I was busy. I really appreciate that. Any last word from anybody? We're right on time.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving. Great one.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.
Save chat.
Okay, I've got to
All right. Thank you.
stop recording.